lot of people are talking about isolation as a result of the pandemic, but that really was probably the key problem before the pandemic. Isolation is a terrible thing. Isolation causes us to go within our, when we can't bounce ourselves off of other people in the world, we tend to think that we're the terrible ones. Or sometimes we think that we're the awesome ones. I know, that works out well too, but it's not realistic as long as you're operating in a vacuum. And isolation has become a problem, but it's not new, but it's devastating for people.
I know that I've had friends that when they start to isolate themselves, that's when it starts to seem, that's sort of a warning sign. That's the dashboard starting to say, this is maybe not good for you. Maybe check in with somebody. Because the problem about isolation is it's a cycle, because the more you isolate, the more you feel like you need to isolate. And the more afraid you get of then reaching out to anybody.
I think all of us felt more vulnerable, but we didn't want to add to anybody's feelings either, And so that isolation creeps in, and you turn to coping skills that maybe aren't as healthy.
Isolation is critical to substance use. It's been said that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. Now we find that the people who are in active substance abuse are disconnected. And what more disconnecting thing could there be than a global pandemic that tells you to go home and don't see the people you care about. Eesh.
Us as humans, our biggest desire is to be connected with other humans. And so with that, sometimes those desires can override sometimes what is healthy for us. And so having good boundaries is so incredibly important, not just for teens, but for adults as well, of making sure hey, these people that I have close to me, are they people who are lifting me up, who are investing into me, who are pouring into me? And I, in return, am also pouring into them as well.
We have an epidemic of loneliness because we have organized our society to be able to be with our devices, be productive. And also the other interesting thing too, I grew up in a small town, and I think one thing when you grow up in a small town, you got to not make people too mad because you're going to see them again, right? You can only get so mad because you're stuck with each other, because that's the store. So you may not like the guy who owns that store, but that's the store, so you're going to go there unless you want to drive 30 miles. When you move to a bigger city, or the city gets bigger, or you got 3 stores now, you don't have to see that guy anymore. We can get away from each other now way easier than we could a generation ago, and that's a problem. And I think the pandemic showed us that, wow, we actually do want other people around. So hopefully it showed us that we can reach out and make those connections, and we need to.
I think for the most part, for me, it's having a support system, whatever that looks like. And so we need our village, we need work people, we need our family, our friends. And when you don't have that, there is a huge void.
Connection is important. We were not made to be alone in this world. So I believe, even if that looks like, hey, calling up a friend and saying, hey, you want to go grab some coffee, or you just want to go out for a walk around the park, that's important. That's huge. People need to know that somebody else cares about them in some way.